Paul James is set to join his old mate Duncan Jones at the top of a very high mountain at the weekend, but he will do so without any fuss. He will draw level with Jones at the head of the Ospreys' all-time appearance list if he makes his 223 outing for the region on Saturday. Zebra will provide the opposition, and all the signs are that James will be involved. But he has no plans to order a Red Arrows fly past to mark the occasion. Nor has he invited the world's press along, and he hasn't splashed out on fireworks to be lit the moment he runs onto the pitch. It isn't what he is about. But sticking around for so long is still some effort from a prop who underwent 2 major neck operations in his early 20s amid serious concerns about his future in the game. He has no hesitation when asked about the secret of his longevity. A good wife, he laughs. Early on in my career I had 2 neck ops. It was a difficult time as I was only about 20 to 21, playing in the front row, but, touch wood, the medics did a good job and I'm still here. But my wife does help me, and so does my family. They help me to stay fresh. What helps in training is having quality loose heads in the squad. We have Nicky Smith and Gareth Thomas here, so if one of you doesn't play well then there are 2 others behind you pushing for the shirt, and that was the same when I came through with Duncan and Ryan Bevington. It's a big thing to equal the record, but it's just numbers, and, as a rugby player, you focus more on playing than numbers. It's great, it's a landmark, but I'd rather get the win on the weekend than worry about equaling Duncan's tally. Paul James in Wales colours. James has also managed to fit in 66 Wales caps and 3 years at Bath during a marathon senior career that started with Neath in 2001. The game in Wales had still to embrace regionalism and the culture wasn't exactly blue chip across the board in terms of preparing for big games. It was a time when veterans of the amateur age were still playing, and a number of them were still keen to hold on to the cherished practices of bygone days, the penchant for regularly necking a few pints among them. But youngsters also learned their craft the hard way, heading for lower league clubs to develop, often coming across gnarled old-timers who weren't complete strangers to the game's dark arts. I sort of caught the tail end of the old amateur era, says James. After I signed for Neath they sent me up to Seven Sisters for a season and, in fairness to them, that's where I learned my trade. Put it this way, when you went into rucks you had to cover your head up. Paul James has had a marathon senior career. I have a laugh and joke about it, but seriously that is where you learned your trade as a front rower. I was playing there for a season, and once I dropped into Neath it made the transition a lot easier. Should young players do the same today? I think so. When you're young you need to be playing week in, week out. And I think village teams in Welsh rugby are suffering because of the way things have gone as well. You hear of some of them folding. If the boys are there, play them. They learn the trade and then they step up once they're good enough. It is an old school view which some in the modern game will not agree with. But the likes of James and Adam Jones are living proof that old school can often produce outstanding rugby players. And James has been an outstanding player for the Ospreys. Paul James has been a great servant for the Ospreys. He was part of the squad when they won their first title in 2005, and he was on duty at Borders when the second one was clinched 2 years later. In the same season he led the region to their historic victory over Australia. In 2008, he was the target for an alleged eye gouge by Perpignan's Romanian hardman Marius Tincu, who was promptly decked by James for his troubles, and the Welshman fronted up in the return despite a hostile reception at Stade Amy Giral. James was also in the starting lineups for the league title triumphs in Dublin in 2010 and 2012. When there has been heavy lifting to be done, he has been the man to do it. Paul James image. Hugh Evans Picture Agency. What does he count among his highlights? With the Ospreys winning the league titles and also being captain when we beat Australia, says James. That match is one of the biggest memories. It was a big night for me because at the time I was out of the international setup, so to have the opportunity to play an international team was massive in that it allowed me to put my hand up to show I could play test rugby. The game was big for Welsh rugby in general. To see something like that happening again would be great. A tough question among all the quality players he has played with at the Ospreys. Who does he rate the best? Shane Williams just manages to touch down in the 2012 PRO12 final. The one who stands out is Shane Williams, he says. I came through as a youngster and he hadn't been at Neath long, and it was something else to see him just create stuff from nothing. In the forwards Marty Holler was outstanding, and then there was Philo Tischer's presence around the boys and his leadership. He was phenomenal, and it's no surprise HES transferred that into his coaching. And Richard Hibberd must be there or thereabouts among his best mates. Old Slibbard, yeah, laughs James. Patrick Swayze as they call him, or Fatrick Swayze. Hibbs is probably one of my best mates, but all the front row boys really. We stick together and have a bit of cake club from time to time. Boys come and go, but the good thing about rugby is you always stay friends with the people who come and go. The toughest opponent I have faced scrummaging-wise was Nicholas Marsh. Before the laws changed he was phenomenal, just solid and able to make life really difficult. Paul James has won 66 caps for Wales. Is there any advice from a man who has seen so much for the youngsters who are pushing through today? Jump in the scrums, push in the lineouts, says Jones, who has developed quite a sharp line and banter over the years. Seriously, if you're a youngster coming through you have to keep your head down and work hard, but you also have to enjoy it. If you don't enjoy what you do every day, you're not going to progress. Yeah, it's a professional game. But if you don't have a laugh along the way, it's going to be a tough old career for you. Sage advice from a player you would always want on your side when the going gets tough. His old coach at the Ospreys, Jonathan Humphreys, says, I remember Paul had to wait 6 years between winning his first cap and picking up his second. But he never gave up. There was nothing flash about him, but he knew his role inside out. He's a hard, tough boy, but he knows the game and it's brilliant for him. Hes equaling Duncan's record. He isn't finished yet, either. He still has a lot to offer.